first person is Rusty Lugs, who says, I'd love to ask him, how did you meet Richard T. and how did you guys get involved with stuff?
I remember the first time I met Richard T. I was at a session at night, a late session at Electric Lady, and Paul Griffin was the producer, and Paul Griffin was a session keyboard player, and he had hired Richard T. to come in and do an organ overdub. We had already done a track, and people talked about Richard T. with this reverence because I mean he had, he was him and Chuck Rainey and Bernard Purdy. I mean, they were doing a lot of things, and T was going back and forth from New York to L.A. So I heard about him before I even met him, and so he came in late and did this overdub. Very, didn't say anything to anybody really, just came in real late. Was sort of grumpy, and I watched him, and that's when I first met him, and. I don't know, and then there was a club called McKell's that Richard Gordon Edwards had a group there. Gordon's a bass player, and Richard T was in the band. Cornell Dupree, Chris Parker was playing drums, and I went and heard them, and they sounded fantastic. Eventually, Eric Gale was in that band, and Chris was real busy at the time too. I mean, there was a lot of work in those days, and guys be in the studio all day, and then this gig at McKell's would come up, and you'd be in there all night. And so I said to Chris, I was in Woodstock, and I would come into New York, 3 days a week, and stay and do recording 3 days a week, and then go to Woodstock and rehearse with the band with Tony. And I said to Chris, I said, man, if you can't do it any of these nights, or if I can sub for you, I'd love to, because I'm in town. Just I got dates during the day. Sometimes I have dates at night, but other times I'm just hanging. So and that's how I started working with the band. Chris might have had another date, or he might have had to do a little tour with someone that he recorded with. So I did the gig, and then we started doing it together. And then he'd do it when I couldn't do it. But and so yeah, I was in that band, and I probably played in that band, at McKell's for months before I ever really. Those guys weren't easy guys to get to know.
Mm-hmm.
Dupree and Richard T and Gordon and Eric Gale. They were, I mean, not like they were unfriendly, but they weren't these real social kind of guys. They did what they did. They liked doing what they did with people that they knew could do it. You know what I mean?
They're New York guys.
Yeah, and so. And it was all about the groove, and so I was inspired to learn how to play that stuff, and I loved the way those guys played. So I mean, I asked, and because I was allowed to show up there, and I did it night after night, I learned how to, I learned, and I got, and they could tell I was learning. And then technically, when it came time to solo, I could use the technique that I had to try and solo that in a way that was challenging technically, but also felt good. And so, and they saw that I was honest, I was truthful, I was I was sincere. I was there. When I was there, I was so there, and I
Mm-hmm.
was so tuned in to watching. For months, all I would watch was Richard T's foot, the way he tapped his foot, so I could lock my bass drum in with it. You know what I mean? And I would watch to see if anyone, if the guys, if they were looking to see the kind of expression they had on their face to see if it was feeling good or if it wasn't.
Yeah.
For a long time, and that was and I did that for a long time, and eventually I found my way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I found something that worked with that band with Richard, and that's the most fun band I think I've ever played with.
Really?
Well, I mean, in terms of, I play with fun bands now. One of them is my band, but there's a lot of things that go with that responsibility. Do you know what I'm saying? So you have other, but this was the thing where I was just going there to play. My only responsibility was to lock in with those guys, and 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 the reward was it made me feel the groove so hard that it made me want to keep doing it. You know what I mean? It wasn't about any other reason other than just to feel that groove, and then when you could feel when the groove I was feeling and how good I felt when I looked at the other guys in the band and they were smiling and feeling the same thing, and then you looked out at the audience in a club where they're you know 4 feet away from the bandstand, the front of the bandstand. And everyone was grooving and smiling and screaming. I mean, it was spiritual. It felt like a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
The joy. It wasn't about ego. It was just about how good it felt, and that everyone was feeling it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just it was great. I mean, it was you'd go to the same club. It wasn't like we were on the road traveling. You know what I mean? So that was great. It was a lot of fun. That's what I meant. Because go there after a day. I could have had a great day in the studio playing a whole other kind of music, you know, and then gone and played with stuff at the end of the day, and that kind of groove sort of just made it all feel great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I did during the day felt great and felt accomplished on a musical and technical level and a reading level. This was another way of you know, just playing that music the way it was supposed to be played with guys that were doing the same thing. And their goal was to make it feel as a group the best that it could be. That was great, man. That was another joyous occasion for me.
Yeah. You're just there to make it feel good, nothing else.
Yeah, and so that was for a while, I mean, it was so much fun. For years, that band just stayed together because we loved to play. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It wasn't about, being a band and going out and making a lot of money as a band. We just, we weren't thinking about it that way.
Yeah.
We probably should have, but we weren't. But it was great, man. I had so much fun with those guys. And I'm so grateful for the way they accepted me. I'm sure Chris is too. I mean, the way they accepted us and made us feel like they thought of us like they thought of themselves. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Like they invited us to their homes. I mean, we were there. T used to call me his little brother. I mean, and that means so much to me. It means so much to me that those guys, you know, allowed me to be with them.
Be part of the family.
Yeah.
Here, I got one more for you. This one comes from H2O Drums. They say they want to know the story of the session for Asia. Did you really record your part in 25 minutes? I have not heard this story, so I don't. They seem to have heard that you recorded it in 25 minutes. I'm not aware.
You know, I just did a Zoom call a little while ago with Berkeley, with the bass department, and Chuck Rainey was one of the guys on the panel, and Asia came up, and Chuck played with. I mean, he did a lot of work with Steely Dan. Him and Purdy. Before I ever, did Asia, they had history with those guys, and history about how crazy they were to work with and stuff. And Chuck told me that what happened, because let me tell you, those days I was pretty out in those days. I was partying hard. I was working a lot. I was going through some stressful times because my my dad was sick and dying, and I was breaking up with my first wife, and I had two little kids. So I was in a lot of pain, and I put a lot of the work. I mean, I was on automatic for a lot of the time, and so Chuck remembered what I did at the Asia session, and he told me I went in and I looked at the part because they had been trying to do this piece with other drummers, and it's not that the other drummers couldn't play it. It's like the guys in Steely Fagan and Becker didn't hear anything that they thought they wanted. They had something in mind. They couldn't really explain what it was, but they didn't know it until they heard it. And obviously, the people that came before me didn't hit on it. All the music was up there. The band had been playing it with different people, so I, and I got. Chuck said we got through it, read it down the first time. It was good. We did it one more time, and they ended up taking the first take. That's how. Now I don't remember all of that stuff. I mean, I remember being there. I don't remember everybody that was on the session because I mean I was pretty new into that industry. You know what I mean? And I was just trying to probably get the music. I was not trying to look around and socialize. I just wanted to make sure I could get this music together before I started talking to people. I didn't want to get my ass kicked. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what
But
you're talking about.
but Chuck reminded me, and that's I trust his memory more than my own.